Hi, everybody, and welcome to the February meeting for the Tulsa Game Developers Group. I'm Richard Mitchell, the founder and sort of head of this thing, I guess. Smash that subscribe and like button. You're supposed to say that, right? So I have some things I have to read every month, and I'm very happy to do so. In particular, we are sponsored by Techlahoma, which is a really amazing nonprofit here in Oklahoma. They are dedicated to growing and improving the grassroots technology community here in Oklahoma. A lot of Oklahoma City and Tulsa, and also outside those areas as well. It's a nonprofit, volunteer-run organization that puts on 39 different groups, 2 conferences, and sponsors free local events like this one. And they do all this to support their mission of advancing the grassroots tech community of Oklahoma. Also, you should know that we do abide by Techlahoma's Code of Conduct. It is extremely important. I'm reading the right thing. Okay. Extremely important to us that our members feel safe and respected at our events. And if you have an issue with someone's behavior at a Techlahoma Foundation event, please let us know. And if it happens to be with an organizer, there is a form you can fill out on techlahoma.org. So if you feel there's someone you can't go to, you can do so there. And please let us know via the incident report form or one of the other methods provided on the website so that we can take action immediately. If you'd like to get more involved with Techlahoma, you can go to the help-wanted.techlahoma.org to find ways you can volunteer. If you'd like to support Techlahoma, you can do so by going to techlahoma.org/donate and sign up for a monthly subscription. It's really funny. They come in multiples of 8 because it's computers. So I give Techlahoma $8 every month. Tax deductible, why not? There's also, Techlahoma is also on Amazon Smile, also, if you want to support them that way. And let me see here. You are currently sitting in 36 degrees north. They donate the space for us to use every month, and they've done so for, oh my God, is it 3 years now? Wow. We should have had some kind of event to mark 3 years because it was last month. And 36 Degrees North also offers free workshops and co-working desks, offices for a monthly fee. You can find out more at the front desk over there. You can also head to 36n.co. It's a really great place to work. Lots of great workshops, teach you everything from how to build a website to events like ours to, I'm not so good at email marketing. How do I figure that out? We don't have a food sponsor except Techlahoma, and I really thank them for that. Techlahoma helps provide our food every single month, so the pizza and the nice healthy veggies over there are courtesy of Techlahoma. So without any further ado... What? Oh, yes, and I want to thank Project Make It, who is responsible for this wonderful and, might I say, lavish streaming setup that we have. And it would absolutely not be possible for us to stream, certainly of this quality, without Project Make It, so thank you. And I want to thank everyone who came out to Global Game Jam last month. I think everyone had a lot of fun. And usually when that happens, we get a lot of momentum, people wanting to collaborate and make games. And then come summertime, everyone's kind of tired and they kind of stop. So we're going to do our best to really keep that momentum up this year. And I think we made some great relationships out at Global Game Jam. And now, without further ado, I want to introduce you all to From the End Games. We have Ben Harper and Julien Deladornier. From the End Games. They're going to talk about their creative process. They made a really kind of fantastic looking game during Global Game Jam, which I don't know how they did that in 48 hours. And they're really great guys, and they want to help out our community too, but I'll let them talk about that. Take it away.
Thanks. Hey, hi. I'm Ben Harper.
And I'm Julien Deladornier, and we are... You ready?
Hold on, there's a cue. We can get on the screen.
This is live.
Oh, it's different. Okay. And we are
From the End Games. So, what are we talking about first?
Yeah, so we are Tulsa natives, locals, and we're working on our first main game, Boogie Bot. We've known each other. We met in high school, and we've done all kinds of creative pursuits in our time as friends. We were in a band in high school, and we used to always write skits and come up with movie ideas and made several entries into a series of board games called Beer Quest. We have Beer Quest.
Several entries.
Beer Quest timelines.
Beer
You can
Quest
see the
Battlegrounds.
final boss
There's a
there
bunch
in the
of
back. And yeah, so
So we have been kind of developing our own art style and like really drawing with each other for about a little over a decade now. And so it was about 7 years ago that I really decided I wanted to do video game development. I was thinking about going to college for it. It was something I always wanted to do, but I was just like, there's no way I was going to have the money for it. So that was around the time that Unity was starting to get a lot of notice at like GDC and a lot of the developer conferences as like a really easy to use tool. And so I kind of started brainstorming all these different game ideas and putting them on paper. And the more I got into it, the more I realized like this is way too much for me to do. And so it was about that time I brought Ben on board.
yeah, so I always loved, video games and all kinds of creative pursuits and thought it would be awesome to be a game developer, but just didn't see it as something realistic. I, kind of thought it was something for only the super elite programmers and artists and designers. So, Julian started talking about, let's make video games. And I'm like, I don't know if we can just make video games.
I like to preface things like that to him. I'm like, let's do this, and then we just go for it.
So Unity and indie gaming was on the rise, and all this kind of stuff was making it feel more and more possible. So we decided to go for it, and we started working around that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the first game we started working on was actually called Spritl's Quest. And here's some like really early concept artwork for it. I think Ben actually drew some of these on the 3DS.
Yeah.
Isn't that right? Yeah.
Didn't have a Wacom tablet or anything yet, using Colors 3D.
Mm-hmm. It was a really good program, actually. It had like tutorials and stuff on like how to paint digitally and stuff like that and blah, blah, blah. So we were working on Spritl's Quest at first, which actually started out known as a game called Spirit Tree. And it was going to be this crazy, really good hand-drawn side-scrolling game with like really good cutscenes and like a revolutionary combat system and like a boss battle at the end of each level where you got an item or tool that would help you like get through the puzzles and everything like in the next level. It's kind of like a Mega Man or Legend of Zelda situation. But we kind of realized as we were starting to work on it, and keep in mind, this is before Unity had released their 2D tool set. And so we were trying to do all of this in 3D, which was going to completely compromise our hand-drawn vision for the game. Because, going into development, just, basically brand new, we needed something like that. And so, yeah, this is one of the earliest concepts for a level design of ours. It's going to be 2.5D with, like, 3D elements and flourishes and whatnot. And we were just like, we can't do this. This is way too difficult for our first game. And so I think we have a couple
here's some early 3D models we attempted.
All we really got done.
Got Mr. Peanut here.
Uh-huh. It gets a little better.
A little improvement. And then I'm actually kind of proud of this one. I think this one looks pretty good. That's about as far as we got, though.
So we decided we kind of had to pump the brakes. And it was around this time that probably around the time that he got this model done, that Unity released their 2D tool asset. And we were like, okay, back to the drawing board. Now it can be all hand-drawn. Now we've got to redo all this stuff. And just all of the systems that we were going to be working on, we were like, this is way too much. Let's do a first project where we're just going to take it back to the basics of gaming, where you run right and jump. So that was the start. We're just like, we love classic platformers, Mario and all of that. So we were like, let's just start with a baseline for that. And so what was born from that was Boogie Bot.
So yeah, we decided to shelve Spritl's Quest for the time being. And it was just, the more we talked about it, it just became really ambitious. And we didn't want to compromise on that. So we decided to move to something more simple. This is the first run cycle for Boogie Bot. 2 frames done also in Colors 3D. And then had a second pass here. And here's a later sprite sheet that then grew. And now there's way more. So Yeah, so we started working on Boogie Bot, and we just wanted to make a simple run and jump platformer. And now we're sort of nearing the end of development on it, and we've got 10 levels, 10 bonus levels, and we're kind of working on 10 like super challenge levels that we might have ready for release, but we might add a little post-release, like 20 enemy types, and way more abilities than just run and jump. So you'll see it's a pattern that the more we get into an idea, the more ambitious it becomes, and the more we wind up adding.
And we're about 5 years into developing on this, and about 8 builds away from the first one that we started. So some of the abilities, we're going to start off by talking about Boogie.
Yeah.
Where the name Boogie Bot originally came from was a term that kind of our group of friends growing up always had for when you're playing a platformer and you get that perfect run. You know, you're streaming through the level, every jump, every bounce off an enemy's head, like gets you the coins, gets you moving forward. There's no stopping you. You're in the zone. You're just, you're focused in on the boogie. That's what we called it. You're boogieing. Or if somebody was having trouble, you got to find the boogie. And so that was the idea just going into developing this game, was like, we want to make a game that's keeping people moving forward and like very momentum based, and where you got to find the boogie to be able to get through the levels. Not necessarily get through, but like it feels a lot better if you're getting there.
Right. So in the beginning, it was just simple run and jump. And here's some footage from, this wasn't even we didn't even make builds yet, but some footage from in Unity of the original.
Just one of our this is our very first just demo level, if you will.
Yeah. All of these art assets were drawn in Colors 3D. So we were thinking, how can we, incentivize the player to keep moving forward? Our first thought was just put a timer on the level, like Mario. If you dilly-dally too much, you'll die and whatever. But we didn't want to do that, and since it's a little boogie robot, we decided that instead of health, you would have a battery. So you can see that the battery is always draining, right? So just by existing, being on, basically, the battery drains. And so you have to keep moving, or your battery will run out before you make it to the end of the level. The collectibles in this game are CDs. That goes with the musical theme. And as you collect the CDs, that gives you a little bit of battery. So as long as you keep moving and collecting CDs, that'll keep your health up. Next, we added a slide. So it felt really nice and natural to, keep it moving. If obstacles in your way, slide under them. Since we have those bouncing enemies, it felt really nice to, if you're about to get hit by one.
Turn off your nighttime mode.
Oh.
Really orange.
Let me see how to do that. Turning off nighttime mode. Trying to figure out how to turn off nighttime mode.
Apple really wants to save your eyes.
Okay, I can't get out of the PowerPoint. It's kind of stuck. Oh, is that? No. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Technical difficulties. Yeah, I can't even get out of the slideshow to get to my settings. Oh, wait, here we go. Get rid of that. Okay. Getting there. Be under display. There
Good.
we go.
Awesome. I was wondering why it looked so
Okay.
weird there. Yeah, there we go.
Back in it.
Great.
Okay. So yeah, talking about we added the slide. you could slide under the enemies, and it didn't quite work perfectly at first, so we made the slide give you a little bit of a speed boost, so you could kind of boost right out of the way at the last second. Felt really good. And then, so basically I learned how to code from zero just as we went. So I didn't know how to make a jump that was dependent on how long you held the button. So we wound up adding this long jump that was less height and more horizontal distance. And that would also increase your speed. So you could slide to increase your speed, or long jump to increase your speed, or if you slid and then long jumped, then you'd get an even bigger speed boost. You'd be going really fast. And it just felt really good to slide and then long jump, and the thing worked really well. So then next we added the jet jump, we called it. So you can fly around, and he shoots sound waves down that propel him upwards, but it costs battery to use this ability. So you can't use it too much, or you'll just use up all your battery and wind up dead or stuck to the ground, and so you have to manage that. So we have this kind of fuel management system in place now, and so that gave us the ability to add these extra sections now to where you don't have to be on the ground. You can be flying through the air following the paths of collectibles. And
We got a question from online asking what you're using to develop
question from online, what we're using to develop. We are using Unity.
on PC or Mac.
On Mac. Yes. Yeah, so we got these new sections now that you can follow, and as long as you're collecting enough CDs and moving fast enough, you can keep airborne. And this also leads to some cool moments where if you miss a jump, you could save yourself at the last minute and come flying up from the depths below the screen. And that has been one of the most kind of fun things that new players will experience. And you'll be on a crazy run, and then you'll miss a jump, and then just at the last second come flying off the screen, and you thought your run was over, but you get to keep it going.
And we put the pit collider really low for that, so we could specifically have those moments. We didn't want it to just, we tried it out where you fell in the pit, so basically right after you get past the red glow, you die, but then we were like, we were testing it, lowering and lowering the pit, and then being those moments where you just see him come flying up very triumphantly, and you just get to keep going. It's some of the best moments in the test plays. So
it sort of happened by accident the first time, and then we were like, oh, that feels awesome. We gotta make that a mechanic and improve on it.
okay, so that could have been enough abilities and everything, but then we were like, well, what if we had this boogie meter that fills up as you're moving forward? So the whole time you're moving forward, anytime you have forward momentum, your boogie meter's filling up. If you stop, it starts to drain. And we decided on some abilities for this. The first one, and the only one we really decided on at first, was almost like a star. You're invincible, you get to move fast, and you can, just get through a bunch of enemies. So that's called Boogie Down, is what that one is. And you got those rotating cartoon legs, and it really, the music speeds up as you speed up. It's all momentum based. And so we did that, and then we were like, well, we're not using all the buttons, and we need to use all the buttons on a controller. So the next one we came up with was Refuel, which started off as just a debug thing for us. While playing through the levels, we could just stop and hit our L2 and refuel our character to keep going. If we died on a level a bunch of times, we were like, I just want to see if the trigger at the end works, So we decided that you should be able to use your boogie meter to basically refuel yourself. So that also stops you. So you can't just keep moving forward while refueling yourself. You have to stop to be able to use that L2 to refuel. And so the last one we decided on sorry, not the last one. So many. Slow motion, which also slows down the music, but it slows down the enemies and everything around you if you're trying to get through a really difficult platforming section, or with the disco bots who shoot the laser beams, and you just can't time it right, and use the slow motion to get through it. And the last one is air dash, which, oh my God, it's not? Oh yeah, wave stomp. So this is air dash, which works a lot like the slide. It propels you through the air and it shoots out the sound waves behind you as you're going. We kind of decided that any ability you're using that's using up your fuel and stuff should also be able to get stuff back for you. So almost any ability you use sends out those sound waves to hit enemies to collect CDs for you to refuel yourself. And then
last we added this wave stomp. So you hit the button and it basically shoots you downwards. So a lot of the stuff in the game is physics based. So that way you could get a big bounce off an enemy. Or we have these bouncy platforms in this level if you want to get a really high bounce off of them. And then eventually we had the idea to, kind of make it a real stomp. So if you hold down the button when you hit the ground, he'll also throw out his arms and shoot sound waves in either direction that will function as projectiles that can hit enemies. And he also shoots one straight up, and that's what's giving him the downward momentum. And so we had always talked about having like a roll, and I just put it off for a really long time because I didn't want to animate it because I thought it would be really tedious, but it wasn't so bad. So we eventually changed the long jump into a dive roll, and then also made that when you do the air dash, it'll also send you into kind of a dive roll, which it functions exactly the same, but it just looks cooler and feels cool.
especially if you go into a long jump and just keep hitting long jump, it looks like you're flying. Like he just stays like that and keeps going.
And then, so we talked about a little bit earlier the trails of CDs that you can follow with your jet jump. And so it wasn't readily apparent that you could do that to new players. So we kind of added these energy fields as a way to kind of teach the player. Before we ever introduced the paths of CDs, you get the energy fields that just, whenever you're within them, they fill up your battery, and so you can fly in them indefinitely. And then we also added these jet platforms that you can ride around on. The first ones you come across, you can't steer. You just ride on them and jump off and kind of get sent flying. But then later in the game, you're able to actually steer them. And this is footage from one of the bonus levels. And then we're just going to show you real quick several iterations of our start screen. Oh, here's the first one. Then we redid the art a little bit. And then we started learning a little bit more about how UI works, which was really annoying at first. Then, made it a little better, and at this point we had made our new difficulties a little better still, changed the colors. We always wanted the game to be really hard, but I work at a school, and so I have a lot of kids play test the game, and it was like it's way too hard for them. It was pretty hard for us originally anyway, so I wanted to make it as accessible as possible. So we added a easy, normal, and hard difficulty.
Our original inspiration was Super Mario Brothers Lost Levels, if you've ever played that, yeah. And also Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
I was also playing a lot of Bloodborne at the time, so I was like, this has to be as difficult as possible with a survival mechanism.
So we'll show you a little bit about Boogie Bot more later, but we're going to step away from that and talk about game jams for a little bit. We did our first game jam like 6 months ago. We're already 4.5 years into development of Boogie Bot, and it was just an awesome experience. We can't believe we didn't do one sooner. I think game jams are great for any developer of any skill level. So where am I supposed to say here?
The theme and the extra credits.
Okay, so no, that's you. So yeah, each game jam we did, we were able to learn something new that we were then able to go back and apply to Boogie Bot and then our later game jams, and we'll be able to, take to any games we make in the future. And game jams were also a great exercise in not going overboard on the scope. It's so easy. You have so many like good ideas. You want to add them all, but your game's never going to be perfect. And it was just a good exercise in being realistic and keeping things under control.
Ben's the one that has to rein it in. I'm the one that like, this is the project. This is what we're going to do. And then over the course of the 48 hours, it becomes this, which is fine. And it ends up being good. And it ends up being a complete thing. But yeah, it's always like, I have these grandiose visions. And he's really good about bringing me back down to reality. So,
first jam.
yeah, our first game jam was hosted by a YouTube channel called Extra Credits, which is a channel all about, making games better and, how we can do that. And so what the theme was awesome per second. Yes,
Awesome per
I always want to say moments per second, which doesn't mean anything. So awesome per second, which was kind of like there should be something happening on screen almost every second to keep the players' engagement and keep them focused on that instead of looking at their phone or doing whatever else, like whether it be dialogue happening or a little just artistic, pixel flourish or just little things like that. Just almost every moment something should be happening. A pit that comes up you can jump over, blah, blah, blah. So we decided we wanted to have a game that had like really good smooth scenery changes with sound effects and little dialogue blurbs. And a rotating soundtrack and just a lot of different things to kind of just like, we were like, okay, we're going to tick all these boxes for things that could be happening at almost any moment. And what we decided on was Cats to the Moon. So, you want to take it away on this one?
Yeah, so the name of the game is you got to get those cats to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
You play as a space captain cat. You're driving around in your spaceship, collect the cats and deliver them to the moon. So we wanted to have different layers within the scenery. So you can see there on the bottom there's the earth layer, and then we go into the sky, and then there's a cloudy area, and then a lot of space. You can see the moon up there top right. And here are different concepts for the ship. Let's see. I originally wanted to have the little cat legs kind of go back and forth, whatever, and have a little wiggly tail on the cat ship, but it's a game jam, so time was not permitting. Here you got the first concept for Space Captain Cat and the Space Cats. And you'll see in the game, you start out with an empty ship, and as you collect cats, your ship fills up with cats.
And they kind of just cram in there.
Yeah,
at
they're all
different
just
angles
stuffed
too.
in there. Here's some of the sprites for the game. There's Space Captain Cat. We wanted to have like a screen wrap kind of thing where either side, if you went off, it's like you're going around the planet. But it did not work. It was taking too long, and so we wound up just having those portals instead that would just teleport you to the other side.
Which worked. It was great.
And then, so we got all the mechanics working and stuff, and then really last minute we kind of went in and threw in some little mazes and puzzles for collecting the cats.
There's 100 cats in this game too, and you only have 9 lives, right? I always wanted to make a game over a weekend just called 9 Lives, where you're a cat who just has to get to the end of the game, and if you lose all your lives, you die and have to start over, right? Simple enough. So then we were like, oh, well, let's implement that in this so I can just get that out of my head. And so you have 9 lives, you have to get all these cats to the moon, but you're running out of fuel again. That's kind of a thing for us. We love survival mechanics, like what's rushing you to get to the moon to go drop off these cats. So if you run out of fuel, you die, and all the cats you had in the ship are gone. They don't respawn on the map like you do. They're just gone. So it's all about trying to get all 100 of them, and it's a pretty big map too. It's kind of hard to find some of them.
Very large and disorienting. We wanted to have a mini map, but again, time was not permitting.
No. So, and we actually ended up pretty much accomplishing a lot of the stuff we set out to on this game jam. We didn't get the transitions on the scenery like we wanted, but we did have the changing background. Like so each. Yeah. Can we go back to that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like each of these you can see is represented by the different layers and stuff and whatnot. And so we had that happening, and then every cat you pick up also has a little dialogue blurb that they say its name and then like a little story about them or why they were trying to get to the moon and this and that. A lot of it is just rubbish. Written at about 3 a.m. and some of it is just Pink Floyd lyrics. So, yeah.
So every game jam we did, we wound up spending like a really long time like working on something that didn't get into the game, that wound up getting scrapped. So for this, I was working for a really long time on a cool way to like transition from like the Earth into the atmosphere to where like the background would like change colors and become more transparent. Kind of like that original trailer for No Man's Sky where they go from space to the planet and back out. And I tried a couple ways. One was just not working right. And then another one just tanked the frame rate like crazy. So didn't wind up getting to use that. But I did learn lessons about manipulating sprites and environments and stuff that I was able to take to our other projects. And so we talked about the fuel and everything. Okay, so we'll show you the trailer for Cats to the Moon. It's supposed to have sound. There we go. So you fly around in your ship and collect the cats and
Oh yeah, every cat you pick up talks. I don't think we got all 100 to say something unique. I think we had about 35 or so little blurbs.
they also
to
just
say.
overlap each other if you get two within a quick amount of time.
Yeah, so when you drop them off, all the cats empty your ship, and then it goes to your total.
And you refuel. You see them filling the ship there. Stuff crammed full of cats.
And so yeah, we parented the camera to the ship so that if you get knocked off course, it actually just spins with the ship and stuff, and you have to like course correct and whatnot with the directional buttons and whatnot.
I was pretty divisive among the commenters on itch. So yeah, then we did our second game jam. A few weeks later, you want to talk about, introduce it?
Yeah, so the second Game Jam's theme was genre minus mechanic. Okay, so like a driving game where you can't steer, or a platformer where you can't jump. So like you take away the mechanic that a genre is like can't live without, basically. And what we decided on was, we kicked around a few ideas really quickly, but what we decided on was a run and gun game, kind of like Contra for NES, but where you take away the gun, okay? And so all the character has is just a shield that can deflect bullets back at the like enemies or whatever. And so that was what we were going for, and we decided on Rascal on the Run.
With this game, like you said, run and gun without the gun. So you have a shield. So that's all you got. You run, you jump, and you can throw up your shield that will deflect the bullets. And here's a little bit of gameplay.
We decided that since the theme was so specific this time that we didn't need to overdo it on like art assets and music and whatnot like that. So we really just focused on, the mechanic we were trying to portray through the theme. And so it's just one song that plays. It's almost the same assets for every level, except for, the enemies are all the same, but we have like 3 or 4 different variations of enemies. And so it became a little bit of a bottleneck game, but we were like, okay, so we've got this mechanic working now, but this needs to be like at least 25 levels long, with like the first few levels being like introduction levels teaching you how to play the game and stuff, which just seems ridiculous for a game jam. We could have just made, a couple of levels, whatever, and then just been like, great, it works. But
So for this one, the thing that I spent a long time working on that didn't make it in was the camera controller. Spent several hours working on a camera for this game, and then we just wound up making it a single screen per level. So that was all. It wasn't worthless though, because then in Boogie Bot, we originally started developing in Java, and then I switched to C# because there was more resources for C#, but I could never get a good C# camera. And so everything was in C# except the camera in Boogie Bot was in Java, so I couldn't reference it from other scripts. And then working on that camera, I finally figured it out and was able to take that to Boogie Bot and make it work. So here's some of our sprites. We never were able, we ran out of time to put that third enemy in the middle there.
the weird plant with the eye who's supposed to shoot a laser beam.
He's gonna shoot
and
that big laser.
Just didn't
Right.
make it in.
Ran out of time.
I was really sad about it.
And this is the run cycle for this game that looks simple, but I spent hours working on this stick figure run cycle.
Which you're gonna see a run cycle that he made for Homeward Bound just about a month or so after this. That
Yeah.
just and in way less time. About half the time.
It
too,
was
so.
another learning experience. After spending so much time on this one, I got better at animating. So we're gonna go to the trailer now.
Yeah.
Okay. So here is the trailer for Rascal on the Run. I also wanted to focus on this one on having a more weighty jump. So you'll see that, when you let go of the jump button, he falls down a lot faster. And it is possible, albeit very difficult, to make it through the game without using the shield.
Nice challenge run.
Oh, and we learned how to do a screen shake. Hey,
I completely
so
forgot
that's
about that.
Rascal on the Run. And then, so our third game jam was with you guys here, the Global Game Jam, few weeks ago. And you want to introduce
Yeah,
that?
so you guys, I think everybody was there, right? Yeah. The theme was what home means to you, and our game is Homeward Bound. The theme, I think we just kicked around two ideas, basically. One was a video game character trying to get back to his console, stuck in the real world, almost like a reverse Tron, I think is how Daniel put it over that weekend. But then the second thing, I just had this idea in the back of my head for just a guy, like, out of space and time. And he's just, like, doesn't know where he is, but he just really is like, I just want to be home. I don't know where or when I am. And so we decided on it would be just a guy who crash lands on a planet, and he meets all these, like, celestial entities and finds these items that are kind of mysteriously strewn across the planet from his home. And so what I took the theme and ran with was home was about, like, the little intimate and, like, fun conversations you have, and also, like, the little items you just couldn't have a home without, you know? And so that's what we did. We had really good conversations with dialogue trees, and we wanted to have these really, like, extravagant platforming sections in it and stuff, and blah, blah, blah. So we went into this having a start and an end on the narrative, and so we just kind of had to flesh it out from there.
So on this one, on all our previous games, we're really focused on gameplay, and like you said, on this one, we really focused on the narrative more, and we wanted to try and build a cutscene. So we spent a lot of time. The whole first section of the game is just a long cutscene, and you can see here from the original sketch of the concept to the final product, kind of what it looks like. And then here is kind of his original idea I had to rein him in a little bit again with the platforming parts. 'Cause everything else we wanted to do, there wouldn't be really much.
That was the first thing I sat down. I think Richard walked up to me as I was literally working on this. Is the first thing I sat down and started working on, and everything on there except for the platforming made it in. So every trigger I have for a narrative moment or where the items are, and there'd be a little story blurb over that and stuff, like him remembering that item from home, and so all that stuff made it in, just not the platforming.
And so here is the new walk cycle I did. A real noodly. I did this one much faster than the other one, even though it's so many more frames and more detailed. We spent a good 10-15 minutes just walking around Julian's house like this, trying to figure out what it should do.
My wife was so annoyed. Just kidding. No, she was fine with it. She was just laughing at it.
Sprites we did for this game. Up top there, those are the items that are scattered about the world that remind him of home. And there's a portal there. And
So yeah, Ben had a really good idea. We couldn't figure out how to just get the tube to disappear into the portal once it hit it. And so Ben had the good idea of me just cutting those art assets in half, like you see here, and just kind of having one layered on top, one layered on bottom, and it just slipping in there. And then the effect would just go, so you don't see it come out the other side.
you do see it a little bit.
Depending on what computer it's on, you see
yeah.
you see the bottom of the tube come out.
And so here are some of our celestial bodies you come across in the game.
That's just his name is just Blob.
Oh, and we did have some like Animal Crossing style, like brip, 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 whenever whenever you
There's
talk to
dialogue
them.
written for every character, and like
And based on how you answer their question, they'll respond to you in a different way. Got Astronaut Ghost.
you'll notice he has pants and boots in the concept. But as I was drawing him on my Wacom, I was like, well, he doesn't have gloves because he doesn't have hands to hold them on. So how do his pants staying on? And I was like, he can't wear pants.
Can't wear pants.
And the helmet, I couldn't explain that. It's just, he's an astronaut ghost.
And Space Wizard.
Yeah, so this started off as a gnome, and Ben called me out quick. When I drew the just quick sketch on paper, he's like, that looks like a gnome, not a wizard. And I was like, oh, you're right. And then, got onto my Wacom, and that was my first attempt was on actually drawing a wizard. So it ended up a lot better than what was on paper.
So from the original idea, we were able to we made our cutscene, our full cutscene that we were really happy with. And then we were able to do the dialogue, some simple dialogue trees. Really the only thing we cut out was the platforming sections.
That's honestly the only thing that didn't make it into the game.
So as we continue, we're getting better at keeping the scope normal, small. So here is trailer for Homeward Bound. You kind of see it. And best walk cycle ever. Also got to learn a little bit about manipulating colors with just the Unity's animator. So yeah, that's Homeward Bound. So yeah, through game jams, we really learned a lot and are excited to do more. I think it's great for developers of any skill level. Everybody should do game jams. So we just want to talk a little bit about how we actually, our workflow when we're working together.
So the first thing I do is I normally get on my Wacom and just immediately start working on what should this world look like. Like I do some really quick sketches with just some watercolor, just to decide what it should look like. And then
first we nail down what we want to, we talk ideas and
yeah.
pick what we want what we want to go for. Then he starts doing that, and I just kind of start laying the groundwork for the character controller and that kind of stuff.
And then I normally work on background and just platforms so that we can have something to look at as we move our character around. We just want to build the scene first and then expand. That was definitely something we learned over all of the game jams we've done, is like, don't try and just build a whole game, build a functional scene, and then, kind of build from that. And so that's something that we really learned on Homeward Bound, I think.
So I kind of get going on the coding and everything, and he's starting to send me in stuff that I'm plugging in. He gets the music stuff kind of going, and then I usually do like the main character art. And so he's plugging away and he's sending me stuff, and I'm putting it in and coding. And once we have all the mechanics working functionally, then we go ahead and start building the levels or, whatever we're doing with that.
And it's great because I work on all the art assets and stuff, like the background. Like in Homeward Bound, you saw those mountains and like the cacti, the weird organic materials and whatnot. And so I just draw those individually and then send them over to him. And after about a couple hours, he'll turn his computer over to me and just show me the scene and how he's building it. And I'm like, yes, that's it. That's what it was in my mind. So I normally try and get the visual down first. Then I start to build the music and everything off of what like the gameplay and the visual is going to be like. So
if you were to watch us, during this process, it'd be a lot of, just real close to our computers, and then every once in a while, hey, check this out. Oh, cool. Okay, back to, and then, oh, hey, listen to this. You throw the headphones on my head.
I don't even say that sometimes. I'll just get done writing a track and then just go and put them on top of him as he's working, so that he.
I don't
can
even
just
notice
listen to
sometimes that the headphones have been put on my head. I'm just all of a sudden, oh, what's that lovely sound?
We do a lot of the sound effects just by mouth, straight onto
mouth.
By mouth. I mean, that's how we do a lot of them. We do just vocally, and then we start to just mix them and add effects to them and stuff. And so I use GarageBand for all of that. Like that's I hook up my Akai MIDI controller. They're like $80 to $100 at Guitar Center. They work with any computer basically. You just plug them in. They almost work with pretty much any music program too.
Yeah.
So
I think all the software that we use is free to use stuff. So aspiring game developers, you've got no excuse.
I use Krita or Krita, however you want to say it, for all of the art assets I make. So.
So that's about it on that. We're gonna show you the trailer for Boogie Bot now.
We forgot to talk about when we decided we wanted him to explode into pieces when he dies, because he is a robot made from like just a bunch of random pieces. And you'll find out about his creator when you play the game.
Yeah, so those are our games. You can play all of them on our itch page. They're all playable in browser, or you can download them, except Boogie Bot, the demo, is only Mac or PC. And we also have a website and a Facebook and a Twitter and a YouTube channel with all our trailers.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's about it. If you guys have any questions, we can take them.
We actually have 2 questions online.
Okay.
The first was, what software are you using for art? And I think you mentioned.
I'm using Krita, or Krita, however you want to say it. It's completely free to use.
So you, oh yeah.
Oh,
So
sorry.
the question is, what software are we using for our art? Julian uses Krita, and I use GIMP mostly. But there's a little overlap there as well. And we also have this other video of some of the progress from Boogie Bot. It's really long. I'm just gonna kind of play it while we're talking and taking questions.
What was the other question?
So after that, we actually had a comment from one of the games stating the background has that earthbound look. It's great.
Wow. So to the person saying we have an earthbound look, thank you. That is one of the greatest compliments we have maybe ever received.
And the final question is, for Boogie Bot, which platforms are you planning on releasing on?
So for Boogie Bot, the question is, what platforms are we planning on releasing on? We would like to get on all the platforms eventually. Original plan was just to go for Steam, but the market is pretty crowded now, so we're considering maybe doing Switch first. So we're not fully decided on that yet, but we would like to get on PlayStation, Xbox, all the online stores we can, and Switch.
We are a registered Wii U developer, so we could put it on Wii U. To all you Wii U fans out there, stand up!
Yeah. Any more questions? Any of you guys here have questions?
How long did it take you to develop Boogie Bot, like start to finish?
Okay, so the question is, how long did it take us to develop Boogie Bot, start to finish? We started, was it 5 years ago?
We started about 5 years ago.
5 years
on
ago.
that, without the first build. you said.
Started from totally like zero knowledge of game development and have been learning as we go. So basically the first 2 years were like a prolonged just learning and prototyping phase. And at a certain point, after about 1.5 years, 2 years, we decided to basically scrap the project and start from scratch because it was so clunky and there were so many bugs and everything was really disorganized because, you know, we didn't know how to set up the project when we started and we just kind of went for it. So the newer version of the game about 3 years, but really from when we started, it's been about 5 years.
Mm-hmm. And it's not done yet. It's so close. We're finishing up some stuff on the final boss battle and just some sound effect stuff and a few little things we got to plug away at until we're looking at a summer release for it right now. Yep. Music.
Who wrote it?
Okay,
Okay.
so the question is music. Who wrote it? On Boogie Bot? Is that what you're talking about? I wrote all that music. And it's actually, and that's not on GarageBand. I wrote all of that on a program called Rhythm Studio, which you can only download on iPhone or an iPad. For some reason, they don't have it on computer. But that was back when, it was funnily enough, when he and the other member of our band moved away to go to school, I was like, I need an outlet to be able to create music on my own. And so I found that and just started messing with it. You get to pick your beats per minute, like the scale you want your song to be in, and like all of these things before you even get to start, like, you know, plugging away at the notes and stuff. And so, yeah, that was all written in Rhythm Studio, and yeah, that was all me. It actually, again, started off as 2 just electronica EPs that I was writing, and then when we started working on Boogie Bot, I had written a couple of tracks on Ableton that we plugged in that were kind of like some of the other songs you heard on the other games, like very ethereal, very spacey, but we were like, this doesn't feel right for a game that's all about like really quick movement and like, you know. So then we plugged in one of those songs and we're just like, yeah, this is it. This is what we're gonna do. And we had just enough tracks on those 2 EPs to plug into each level of Boogie Bot. So anything else? Any other questions?
Okay.
Another question from online. What
Mhm.
are some of the resources for learning game dev that you guys have used?
I got this.
Yeah.
Okay. The question: what are some of the resources we've used for learning game dev? I have a lot of YouTubers that I like. Bracky's is really good. I've gotten a lot of good scripts and stuff I've learned from him. And kind of newer one I found is Blackthorn Prod. He does a lot of really good tutorials about Unity and C# and really every aspect of game development. Extra credits, like we did their Cats to the Moon was for their first game jam. Game Maker's Toolkit is a really good one. Doesn't so much teach you about, how to code or do art or anything like that, but it's more about, how games are designed and what makes a game good and that kind of stuff. So those are my favorite ones probably, but I am sure there's tons of other ones that I've found when I've just been searching for like, how do I do this? Or, there's so many. But those are the main ones. Blackthorn Prod, Bracky's, Game Maker's Toolkit, extra credits.
Mhm.
Yeah. Is that the end of the questions?
I've got one more.
All
Okay.
right.
Having spent so long on this and having started from zero, as you put it, like, I have to feel like there's got to be things in the game where you're like, I wish I'd done that differently, or now I know so much more. But at some point it's like, well, you got to finish it. You can't just refine it forever. And I don't know, just like, what are some of like the biggest lessons you've learned, or can you just speak to that sort of general feeling? I'm just curious.
I'll go ahead.
Okay, so
Yeah. No,
some of
no,
the biggest lessons we've learned, and since we've been developing it from zero to now, what would we have done differently, or that kind of stuff. Good question. So I don't know what we would
knowing
have.
how to make a game.
Yeah, knowing how to make a game.
No, but yeah, really, there were earlier builds of this game that we were like, this is good. We just need to finish the end, and then we're fine. And then we would look at the level designs and everything else and be like, we're doing really well playing through this. But every time we would have somebody sit down and play it, they had such a difficult time. It's because we were building the levels to our skill set and our flow and our play style, so that we would show each other the levels and be like, right, we know how to play this perfectly because we've been playing these kinds of games together forever. But
Yeah, one thing I would have done differently was have more people play test earlier. I think that's a pretty common thing for new developers, but definitely that, because we probably wasted a lot of time.
and builds.
And builds, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else?
Also, maybe just reined in the scope. Like we've talked about a lot of times over this. We didn't have to add all those abilities, but it just kind of felt like every time we came up with an idea, we'd see if Ben could do it. And sure enough, he could. So why not implement it in the game?
Yeah. As we've learned more, new possibilities have arisen. And, now we're kind of at a point where it's like, anything is possible. We can do anything. But it's like, hold on. It's good now. Let's just smooth it up. Let's refine it, and then we can, get it out there. It's time to put on the finishing touches.
That's where we got to at the very end of this last year. We were like, we sat down, we made a roadmap for exactly what we were going to do for finishing up development on Boogie Bot, when we were going to have it out. That's why we decided the dark levels, we don't need those immediately. We can release those as like a challenge pack or something, things like that, to kind of expedite the process of us just being able to move on to Spridle's Quest, if you remember, was our first project that we still really want to get back to. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Anything else? Okay, I think that's it. So again, we are from the End Games, and thanks for coming, everybody, and being
Thanks for coming
online
out here
for the stream.
and online. Yeah, thanks, guys.